and welcome to the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Power Gamers Tactics Room. This is your host, Bill from Bafflestone, and I'm his lovely assistant, Adelina. Today we are having another episode of our review and rating series, our episode being about fighting styles.
Yeah, so I've been wanting to look at more martial-focused mechanics, and so today we are going to look at the various fighting styles available to fighters, paladins, and rangers. So let's jump right in. So we are going to be looking at these in alphabetical order, starting with the Archery fighting style, which adds +2 to ranged attacks. So this is the only fighting style that burnishes attack rolls, surprisingly to me. The rest are damage bumps. And this is a nice combination with the Sharpshooter, which gives -5 +10, because it really mitigates that -5. So I give this a rating of superior. We're off to a good start. I think this is a fantastic fighting style because +2 to attacks is just amazing in bounded accuracy. Next, we have Blindfighting, which confers 10 feet blind sight. This is one of the rare means of leveraging heavy obscurement besides the alert feat and the dagger of blind sight, and it is extremely powerful under those conditions, granting attacks at advantage and being attacked at disadvantage to those who cannot see in the obscurement, provides a fantastic offense, fantastic defense, and fantastic terms of engagement. So I am loving blind fighting. I give it a rating of superior, and in fact, I think that this is the strongest of all of the fighting styles available. Next, we have the defensive fighting style, and this confers a +1 to AC. This is always on, always stacks, and that is very powerful in bounded accuracy. It scales better the higher your armor class is, and I love this style. It's not necessarily that popular because people are not generally defensive minded, and a straight always on AC bump is considered boring, but statistically this is super strong relative to damage bumps. I give this a rating of good. Next, we have the Dueling fighting style. It adds +2 damage when using a single weapon. So it is always on and applies to all attacks, so scales well with extra attacks. It makes the use of the whip viable, which is an interesting weapon that has reach and a very low damage, but the +2 makes it viable. It still allows for use of a shield, which is very important in my view. And it is the best of the damage bump fighting styles, so I give this a rating of good. Next up, we have Great Weapon Fighting. This allows you to reroll 1s and 2s on your damage dice if using a two-handed weapon. And note, it only affects the weapon damage. It does not affect additional features such as smites, so is clearly better with a magic weapon that adds damage dice. However, when you crunch the numbers, it adds only approximately +1 damage. It's under +1 if your weapon has only a single die, and it is better if you have a higher die type, and it will go up to +1.33 if you are using a weapon that has multiple dice, namely the greatsword or the double-bladed scimitar. So it also comes with an inherent -2 because you can't use a shield with a two-handed weapon. So I give Great Weapon Fighting a rating of average. It's just not that impressive. Next up, we have Interception. This allows you to use your reaction to reduce a D10 plus proficiency damage to a visible attack to a target that's not you within 5 feet. So this has a high opportunity cost in consuming your reaction. That makes it incompatible with Polearm Master, Sentinel, and opportunity attacks, among other things. The range, visibility, and attacking an ally requirement are significant issues. That is going to mean that you cannot use this in many cases, and it will encourage your enemies to attack you, which will also limit your chances to use this. The benefit doesn't scale well because it applies after the hit is made, and it's just a D10 plus proficiency damage, so it's better at lower levels and not so great at higher levels when you're starting to eat 30, 40, 50 damage per hit. So I give this an ultimate rating of 4. Next we have the Protection fighting style, which is similar to Interception. It allows you to use your reaction to impose disadvantage on a visible attack roll versus a target that is not you within 5 feet, and similar issues. The high opportunity cost of consuming the reaction, the incompatibility with Polearm Master, Sentinel, and opportunity attacks, etc. The range, visibility, and attacking an ally requirement are significant issues. It encourages the enemy to attack you. And the benefit does scale well, because if it causes an attack to miss, that attack is going to be much greater at higher levels. But you must use it before the attack is rolled. So that means that it could potentially provide no benefit. With all of the problems inherent to this fighting style, I give it a rating of 4. Next we have Superior Technique. This allows you to add 1 Battle Master maneuver with a D6 superiority die. And this is just straight up bad if you're not a Battle Master. It adds only a single one-shot technique relative to other fighting styles, which are always on. So unless you're a Battle Master, this has no appeal whatsoever. And if you are a Battle Master, it's okay. You definitely, like to have a few, another technique available, and an extra superiority die never hurts. Next we have Thrown Weapon Fighting. This adds +2 damage to thrown weapons, and you can draw the weapon as part of your attack. So it is always on and applies to all attacks. It does scale well with extra attacks, still allows for use of a shield, but the problem is that Duelist also gives you a +2 to thrown weapon damage, and so you're basically only getting a free draw as a marginal benefit. I don't see the point of taking this over Duelist, which will work not only with thrown weapons, but also a melee weapon. So I give this a rating of 4. Next, we look at 2-weapon fighting. This allows you to add the relevant stat damage to the offhand attack, probably dexterity. It does restrict the user to light weapons, unless you're using the dual weapon fighting feat, which I certainly don't recommend. It's a very bad feat. So this is going to add +3 to +5 damage, but only on 1 attack per turn. And if you even get this off, because the playstyle requires the bonus action to proc the extra attack, so there are potential clog issues. There are lots of other things you can do with your bonus action besides making an offhand weapon attack. The playstyle is a little more expensive as it calls for multiple magic weapons, and the playstyle does optimize effects that add damage per attack, like Hex, Hunter's Mark, and Spirit Shroud. So if you are going to do 2-weapon fighting, you're probably going to have some kind of ability such as that. You cannot use a shield with this, so again, an inherent -2 to armor class. It's better at low levels before you start getting extra attacks, which kind of downplay the added damage of the second weapon. So I give this a rating of 4. Next we have Unarmed Fighting. This makes your unarmed attacks do a D6 or D8 damage, depending on whether you have both hands free or not, and you can apply a D4 of damage per round to any grappled enemies. This is pretty sweet. It's always on and applies to all attacks, so scales well with extra attacks. But the main thing is that it unlocks a lot of unarmed and grapple builds, because before this, unarmed damage didn't do much, and you needed like racial abilities or some other mechanic to do decent damage with unarmed fighting. And now we have the unarmed fighting style. I think this is fantastic and give it a rating of superior. Next we have Blessed Warrior, which I'm not doing this one alphabetically because this one is only available to Paladins, and it's terrible. You get 2 cantrips from the Cleric list, but Cleric cantrips are horrible. So this gets a rating of inferior. However, Druidic Warrior, the counterpart available to Rangers, is actually pretty good. 2 cantrips from the Druid list is a lot different because Druid cantrips are strong, particularly Shillelagh and Thornwhip. Those are really nice adds to a Ranger or a fighting style, so I give this a rating of good.
Well, that's that. That was our analysis of fighting styles. If you agree or disagree, you can tell us in the comments. And regardless, thank you so much for watching. This was your host, Bill from Battlestone, and I'm Adelina. See you next time!